Paul, how exactly is this freeze on U.S.A. going to affect minerals for Africa?
Hi, Jen. So what we do know about the aid freeze, a lot of people are aware of the health programs that were affected, but it also, a lot of these smaller U.S. agencies, or U.S.A., for example, they fund a lot of projects in their early stages, whether they're feasibility, environmental studies, and that money is really needed, and those steps are really needed to get these projects off the ground. So what we found was one of the expansions of the Lobito Railway, which is a project to get critical minerals to the U.S. from Africa, that some of the funding is in question, and some of the funding has been disrupted by that aid freeze. So it really just has like a wider swath, and it's starting to get into potential disruptions for energy and critical minerals.
Well, and Paul, just a few months ago, we were watching former President Biden in Angola touting the Lobito corridor and this partnership between the U.S. So does this mean that the Trump administration is not concerned about needing these minerals?
Well, what we do know from the Trump administration is obviously the critical minerals have come up. It's come up recently in this proposed deal on Ukraine, that the U.S. is interested in securing critical minerals. I think Greenland has come up with rare earths. So we do know that the Trump administration, critical minerals forms a part of their policy. But we don't know exactly how that's going to play out with Lobito. As you mentioned, Biden was here, and really kind of championed that project towards the end of his administration. So how the Trump administration sees it, we're not sure. But then also just the disruption and the confusion around what happens with the funding and where that comes from is really unknown by a lot of people on the ground. And the fear that's come up is that China and other countries that have been interested in sub-Saharan Africa recently, maybe U.A.E. and Saudi Arabia, could step in and take over some of these projects. And then the U.S., having tried to carve in a foothold, being behind schedule in terms of like China's dominance on sub-Saharan Africa's critical minerals, that it would lose kind of the ground that it's gained already.
And Paul, what does this mean for some of the host countries where these mines and these minerals are being transported?
Yeah, it means a potential disruption or delay of some of these projects. If it's an energy project, then all these, like all the projections on economic growth from when this electricity would start, that gets remodeled or that gets delayed. For critical minerals, again, whether it's losing part of that project or just delays or loss of influence, the consequences are quite important. So yeah.
Right.